so good to have you here for this experience. My name is Sister Joanne Ionati, and here at Wisdom House, I'm Art and Spirituality Coordinator. And so part of my ministry here involves working with programs in spirituality, but it also involves working with the gallery, the Marie-Louise Trichet Gallery here at Wisdom House. So we're happy to have you for this exhibit, which is entitled In Extremis, 14 Stations of the Cross, Abstract Paintings, Works on Paper by Harvey Offenhartz.
My work is always in color, and it's always without a subject. I work just as freely as I can, and I make individual marks with an oil pastel, which is, I absolutely have no idea of what it's going to look like, and I have no idea of the subject about it. But what I do, what I also do, is I don't title my work. And one of the reasons I don't title the work is that I don't really want to give a clue, because first of all, there isn't one. But secondly, I don't, if someone sees the sun, or someone sees this, or someone sees a plant, or a still life of some sort, that's what they see. What I put out there is what I saw. And everyone who comes to it has to come to it on their own terms, and that's absolutely acceptable. So there's no title, and it's an individual piece. And when I start another one, it's an unknown destination, and it started the same way, and they take time. They take a lot of time. And there are a lot of difficulties with that kind of work, but there's a lot of difficulties with a lot of artwork and in creating it. Mine in particular is kind of maybe like a jazz group getting together, or perhaps a poetry, where a poet may start with a sentence, but then they don't really know where it's going to go. And oftentimes you hear that about novelists. So it's not a unique process in that way, but that's how I work. I cannot sit down and say I'm going to work from anything, from any reality. I have to just start with the color and work the colors. What I do from time to time is I work with a limited palette. I'll work with black and white, or black and red, which is a lot of what's in the gallery now, and I'll work sometimes over something I've already worked on. Generally a painting, or a painted surface, not an oil pastel surface. And I do that to not depend upon color as the way of attracting, of being easier to like, in a certain sense, than some works that are that do not have color. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge to make a painting with two colors. It's more of a challenge. Well, now that I think about it, I was going to say it's more of a challenge, but they're all challenges. But I like doing it. And so I was working in that manner for a while, and I had some that had some kind of presence in the painting. And as I mentioned before, maybe I didn't mention, but if I see something in there that looks like something, I remove it. I paint over it, or I do something else so that it's removed. I do not want to have anything there that has a reference. But there are two, at least, that I knew which station they would be. And not only did I know it, but there were others that seemed to fall closely to what other stations. And I decided I was going to work on them. I was just going to do that. And I got, I had that copy, and I was just working. Now, of course, I had reservations. The reservations were, how would I be doing work like this, a secular Jewish person? And so it was like, what am I doing with this? This is sacred material, and why am I working on it? And somehow I continued nonetheless. And I started working through all of them, and many of them, and even the ones that, there's only, I think I made one change on one of the two that we speak of, I've spoken of. And because I don't, as I mentioned, work with a subject, and don't give clues to my work. I also wanted this work to sit on its own terms as a piece of art without someone going to it and looking at it and knowing what it's about. It was very critical for me that it be both. And it was also critical for me that it be received well among the Catholics and Christian people who would see it. It was a kind of following my own intuition about this project from the beginning. And I can say that that is something that I do on a regular basis. This, the work that I do, well actually, the work that I do during the process of it, there is something that happens between myself and the work that I am not present in. And when I'm finished, it's not necessarily during the finish, it's sometime in the process of working. And that's the place where I find my spiritual sense, in that it's like you don't feel you did the work. I want to explain that, but you don't feel like you did the work. And I will come in sometime and then look at it and go, you know, when did this happen? And it might have been the day before. And that's really true. And it was that kind of a feeling that led me to continue with the finishing and completing the Stations of the Cross. And since that time, it's had a life of its own. And quite honestly, I don't feel they belong to me anymore. I really feel that they exist to be out in the world, and they are not mine. I'm just really the custodian. What you see in each one, or what response you feel from each one, is extremely individual. And if you're familiar with the stations, they are even more than an individual response to a painting. And if you're not, it becomes your response to a painting. And that whole dynamic is interesting depending on the viewer. There are a couple that when I look at them, I go right to the meaning of that particular station, or what it means to me. It's no longer a painting, it's a conduit to my feelings. This whole process has gone on in a way that I just cannot explain. I cannot explain it, and I can explain the art, I can what paper I used and all of that, but I just can't explain this process and how it happened to me, of all people.